Good morning, everyone. We will be continuing with this topic, the Song of the Sannyasin. This, of course, was the beautiful poem that Swami Vivekananda wrote when he was in Thousand Island Park, and that wonderful summer that we know now as all the talks as inspired talks. That was one of the periods when Swamiji, they say, was at his best and very highest. And this is a poem that Swamiji wrote at the time of giving actual monastic vows to some of the members there. So it has tremendous significance. And I'll start by, as before, reading the whole poem, and that we've been going through verse by verse. So we'll do 3 more today and probably finish the next time. Wake up the note, the song that had its birth far off, where worldly taint could never reach, in mountain caves and glades of forest deep, whose calm no sigh for lust or wealth or fame could ever dare to break, where rolled the stream of knowledge, truth, and bliss that follows both. Sing high that note, Sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. Strike off thy fetters, bonds that bind thee down, of shining gold or dark or baser ore, love, hate, good, bad, and all the dual throng. No, slave is slave, caressed or whipped, not free, for fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind. Then off with them, Sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. Let darkness go, the will-o'-the-wisp that leads with blinking light to pile more gloom on gloom. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. He conquers all who conquer self. Know this and never yield, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Who sows must reap, they say, and cause must bring the sure effect. Good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. But whoso wears a form must wear the chain. Too true, but far beyond both name and form is Atman, ever free. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. They know not truth who dream such vacant dreams as father, mother, children, wife, and friend. The sexless self, whose father he, whose child, whose friend, whose foe is he who is but one. The self is all in all, none else exists. And thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. There is but one, the free, the knower, self, without a name, without a form or stain. In him is Maya dreaming all this dream. The witness, he appears as nature, soul. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Where seekest thou that freedom, friend, this world nor that can give? In books and temples vain thy search. Thine only is the hand that holds the rope that drags thee on. Then cease lament, let go thy hold, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Say peace to all, from me no danger be to aught that lives, and those that dwell on high, and those that lowly creep. I am the self in all. All life, both here and there, do I renounce, all heavens and earths and hells, all hopes and fears. Thus cut thy bonds, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Heed then no more how body lives or goes. Its task is done. Let karma float it down. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame. Say naught. No praise or blamed can be where praiser praised and blamer blamed are one. Thus be thou calm, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Truth never comes where lust and fame and greed of gain reside. No man who thinks of woman as his wife can ever perfect be, nor he who owns the least of things, nor he whom anger chains can ever pass through Maya's gates. So give these up, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Have thou no home? What home can hold thee, friend? The sky thy roof, the grass thy bed, and food what chance may bring, well cooked or ill, judge not. No food or drink can taint that noble self which knows itself. Like rolling river free thou ever be, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Few only know the truth, the rest will hate and laugh at thee, great one, but pay no heed. Go thou, the free, from place to place, and help them out of darkness, Maya's veil. Without the fear of pain or search for pleasure, go beyond them both, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Thus, day by day, till karma's power spent, release the soul forever. No more is birth, nor I, nor thou, nor God, nor man. The I has all become, the all is I and bliss. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. It's almost a pity to have to speak after that, and just to let it soak in. Swamiji was so inspired at the time that he wrote this. But anyhow, I have no choice. Last time we went over verses 4 to 7, and we'll continue now. I'll read the 3 verses that we'll discuss this morning. Say peace to all, from me no danger be to aught that lives. In those that dwell on high, and those that lowly creep, I am the self in all. All life, both here and there, do I renounce. All heavens and earths and hells, all hopes and fears. Thus cut thy bonds, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Heed then no more how body lives or goes. Its task is done. Let karma float it down. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame. Say naught. No praise or blame can be, where praise or praised and blame or blamed are one. Thus be thou calm, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Truth never comes where lust and fame and greed of gain reside. No man who thinks of woman as his wife can ever perfect be, nor he who owns the least of things, nor he whom anger chains can ever pass through Maya's gates. So give these up, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. I mentioned last time or earlier that would be nice to try to find a common theme or some logic from one verse to the next. We don't always have it exactly. If there's a common connection in these few verses, I would say that we're getting the characteristics of the Sannyasin the same way we get the characteristics of the Sthita Prajna when we read chapter 2 of the Gita, or the ideal bhakta in chapter 12, that we're getting a glimpse of what it means to represent the highest ideal and to have the qualities that the ideal sannyasin has. Now, we've seen earlier that some of these verses and some of this poem is meant only for the sannyasin. That, so don't get afraid, no husband, no wife, anything like that. That we have to put it through a little bit of a filter to show how this is helpful for everyone, for the monk as well as the householder, to get the spirit behind all of this. But some of it clearly, because it's the song of the sannyasin after all, that this is representing that highest ideal of perfect renunciation. So some of these we simply stand back in awe of how high this ideal is. And other things we see how much we can incorporate them into our lives. This Sthita Prajna section, when Shankaracharya gives his commentary, he makes a very strong point that these are things that we ourselves have to try to emulate. That it's not just that we want to be able to recognize who is a God-realized soul, or to be able to stand in awe of the God-realized soul, but this is for the sake of sadhana, he says. So the same thing with this, that these are ideals that are meant to be put into practice. And we all know that an ideal is something that we aspire to, not something that we necessarily can reach fully, but the more we try to realize that higher truth, the better it is for us. We had a lay brother. He wasn't one of the monks, but he lived in Trabuco for many, many years when I was there. And he had a little sign on his door that said, if you try to jump over the moon, you'll be able to jump over the fence. So it's a very nice thing that we have the highest ideal. Swamiji said never lower that ideal. Keep that highest ideal. And we may not reach it, but we'll make tremendous gain by even making the attempt for that. So this is read in two ways. One, what is it like for someone to be a God-realized soul? So here the ideal sannyasin, and how do we become that? So we have to try to put these things into practice. This is the idea that we find in a book that Swamiji loved and that he carried around with him when he traveled, Imitation of Christ. Yeah, it's interesting that for much of the time when he was just a wandering monk in India before coming to the West, he only carried with him the Bhagavad Gita and this Imitation of Christ. He liked it so much, and he actually wrote a Bengali foreword to it, and I believe was translating it into Bengali at one time. But this is that same idea that we try to imitate or emulate Aropkara, this idea we read in the Gospel all of the time, that we try to feel that these qualities belong to us, and if we sincerely do it, then somehow they get incorporated into our very being. So this is that idea with the Stita Prajna, and this idea here also. And we'll find that, for example, the Stita Prajna is the perfect ideal also for the householder. The Stita Prajna section, after all, this is Sri Krishna telling Arjuna, the question that Arjuna asked him. But the Song of the Sannyasin, the householder will benefit, of course, but the real ideal here is the perfect renunciation. So, we find this kind of dichotomy and this challenge to know how to put these things into practice. We had this same situation with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And sometimes Sri Ramakrishna would speak of renunciation in such strong terms that the others would be frightened. There's one time Thakur was talking to Narendra and about this perfect renunciation and everything, and one of the householder devotees said, well, what about us? So Sri Ramakrishna said, this is between the two of us. Don't pay too much attention to this. So there's some times when we have to recognize what things are meant for us and what things aren't meant for us. And we have to keep reminding ourselves, Swamiji was in some very high exalted state when he wrote this. I don't think he was had in the back of his mind, will this be useful for this person or that person or anything. This is that's the state of true inspiration, we can say. So we'll find this distinction between the pravritti marga and nivritti marga, path of the householder and the path of the monk, perfect renunciation. And the meeting point will be with this mental renunciation. That has to be the key for both the householder and the monk. Only the monk, it's both internal and external. So now we get to the verse. Say, peace to all, from me no danger be to aught that lives, and those that dwell on high, and those that lowly creep, I am the self in all. All life, both here and there, do I renounce. All heavens and earths and hells, all hopes and fears. Thus cut thy bonds, sannyasin bold. Say, Om Tat Sat Om. Now, there's a great irony to much of this in the life of Swami Vivekananda, because he was never permitted, we could say, by the Divine Mother or Sri Ramakrishna to lead this type of life. He always had that desire to be free somehow. He had this huge burden on his shoulders of carrying the message of Sri Ramakrishna to the world. And he said so many times that my real nature is to sit quietly and write something and to go into a cave and meditate. He said how many times I wanted to do that and something pulled me back. So there's a little bit of an irony here that he had the mindset of the perfect sannyasin and yet also had to be the warrior. He had to fight in the battlefield. So he used to say that this highest ideal is non-resistance and non-injury, and to simply turn his back and not worry if anybody said anything to him. But he was in a position as the torchbearer of the avatar, in the position that he had to sacrifice, really, he had to sacrifice tremendously, this longing to live a life of solitude and a life of pure renunciation in order to carry out the mission for which he was born. So Swamiji found himself in a position many times where he was criticized. First of all, he was praised, and we know that. When he came back to India, he received, after the first trip to the West, he received a reception that perhaps no one had ever received before. And not just a sannyasin, anybody. And he had to be able to live. Anybody else, it would have gone straight to their head. And at the same time, when he was in the West, he was constantly slandered, that there was so much jealousy, and there were so many people that tried to bring him down, that he had to deal with all of these things. And he was perfectly content to just put up with everything. But he couldn't. This was the problem, because slandering him was slandering Hinduism and India and his motherland, so he had to fight against all of these things. And if there was any personal motive to any of it, he said the one thing that bothered him personally was if any of this got back to his mother. If his mother should think that after renouncing everything, her son has become a cheat and a hypocrite and everything, how it would hurt her. That was the one thing that was constantly on his mind. He had such reverence. But otherwise for him, praise and blame, they meant nothing to him. There was a nice incident that took place somewhere in Western India, Gujarat maybe, where he found himself with some great Sanskrit pundits, and they were having some conversation, all taking place in Sanskrit. Now, a Sanskrit pundit in India is a whole different thing. They know Sanskrit in and out. They may be speaking from their very childhood. The Swamiji, he was brilliant, we know, but he wasn't like the Sanskrit pundit, and mostly self-taught probably with the Sanskrit. He wrote beautiful poetry and everything, but he would make mistakes sometimes. He wasn't used to this conversational Sanskrit, and they laughed at him on some occasions. And it didn't bother him at all. He would also laugh along with them, because he had no pride that way. He was free from all of these things. There was another very interesting incident when Swamiji came back from the West. He was in his room, someplace, I don't remember all the details of it, but pacing back and forth. And I think one of his own disciples was there, and he heard him reciting a verse over and over and over again. This verse is Abhimanam Surapanam, that this pride, feeling of pride that we feel, it's like getting intoxicated by drinking too much. Abhimanam Surapanam. Gaudavam Radirodavam. This honor, receiving honor from others, he said it's like the sound of people weeping and wailing in hell from the fire and everything. This is what it sounds to his ears when people are praising him. Then Parishta Shukurivishta. And getting some high position is like the droppings of a pig, he said. Now remember, when he came back to India, first thing he did was turn everything over to Swami Brahmananda, so that he wouldn't be the one he would never became the president. That Swami Brahmananda was the first president of Belur Math. He didn't care for any of that. And then, Trayam Tyaktva Sukhi Bhave, give up to all of these things and be happy. So this disciple was amazed. Here he comes back, and other people would be thrilled to be praised the way he was praised. And it was almost unbearable. He really, it was like hearing people in hellfire, weeping and wailing and crying and everything. So this was the nature of Swamiji. So anyhow, to get back to this verse, so we find this idea that no feeling of animosity, no feeling of fear, no harm, nothing with regard to other people or even animals or anything. Why? Because the Sannyasin, Swamiji himself, and remember, all of this is personal with Swamiji, that he saw the self in all beings. He didn't feel any sense of separation. So who is there to be afraid of when one sees the self in everything? So Swamiji emphasized this fact so much within all living beings, but especially for Swamiji, this idea of Nara Narayana, seeing God dwelling in human beings, and Daridra Narayana, especially in those who are poor, and those who are suffering, and those who are uneducated. This was a special type of worship for Swamiji, that way. So he often said, down to the worm and those that lowly creep, the same consciousness, the same divinity, the same God dwelling equally in all. Equally dwelling there, not manifested equally, of course, but that same divine presence everywhere. So because of this, seeing this constant vision of the self everywhere and the perfect fulfillment, then what is there to desire? So he says the Sannyasin will renounce everything, having only one desire, God realization or self-realization. So he says, all life, both here and there, do I renounce. All heavens and earths and hells, all the hopes and fears. Thus Kataiban Sannyasin Bod say Om Tat Sat Om. Part of the sannyasa ceremony is the renunciation of different types of desire. So we have Vitteshana, that desire for any type of wealth or possessions. We have to give that up completely. Putreshana, of course. No desire for having any children, offspring anyway. And see, this desire for children very often is a way to a desire for a certain type of immortality, keeping the family line alive, living through our children. All of these things are foreign to this idea of sannyasa. So it's a very earthbound way of attaining immortality, to think that this line will continue on and on and on and on, and somehow we live through children and everything, and we relive our own lives, and the things that we wanted to do we didn't accomplish, we do through children. So all of these things are all part of this Maya, we can say. So this is also to be renounced. And then Lokeshana. Lokeshana has two meanings. One, Swamiji says, all heavens and earths and hells. So this is one thing. Any desire for heaven or for anything going to any loka, anything like that, we give up. Lokeshana also means desire for some type of praise or at least appreciation from other people. So approval from other people, public recognition, anything like that. We have to give these up completely. So all of these three are included in that line. All life, both here and there, do I renounce. All heavens and earths and hells, all hopes and all fears. So then what's left? What desire is left? Desire for God realization, or for those who have attained something, the desire to be of benefit to the world, without any ego behind it, but the desire to at least be an example of what we can attain if we lead a good spiritual type of life. Now, to get back to the householder, the same ultimate goal of the householder is here. This is the same thing for the householder, to attain to that state. But the householder does it after going through this artha and kama. The artha and kama, these are the two aims of life during the householder stage. Now we can say this is a comedy conscience. This is what Thakur says, to give up and everything. But that's after we reach what he calls it bhoganta. I mentioned this term, I like this very much, this idea. Bhoganta, we can't start giving up all these desires until we've fulfilled some basic things. And this is why the householder stage of life is necessary. In the very early tradition, one was not supposed to take sannyasa until after becoming a householder. It was meant as really the final stage of life. But then we have this belief, of course, that people have done this in a previous lifetime. They don't have to go through all of that. But the same ultimate goal of transcending all other worldly desires and having only that desire for God realization, self-realization, this is for everyone, every spiritual aspirant. Now the next verse continues with a similar type of theme, and we can almost hear Swamiji sigh when he reads these verses out, and his great longing to return to that life. This is what I said in the beginning. Somehow he was denied this, that how his heart yearned to lead that type of life, how happy he was when he was wandering. When he was wandering as an unknown monk. He had such a desire to be unknown, he changed his name several times. And even his brother disciples, he tried to hide from them. He just wanted to be alone and to experience the joy of communion with the self, we can say. Communion with the self. Just the joy of wandering alone. There's a beautiful Buddhist poem about that. Wander alone like the rhinoceros, something like that. Just that joy, this Atmarama state. We have that idea, seeing Thakur pacing back and forth that time. So we get to this next verse. He then, no more how body lives or goes, its task is done. Let karma float it down. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame, say naught. No praise or blame can be, where praise or praised and blame or blamed are one. Thus be thou calm, Sannyasin bold, say Om, Tat Sat, Om. So we've already seen this praise and blame, that Swamiji really didn't care with this. His head was not turned with all that tremendous praise and all of that blame, only because really he was representing Sri Ramakrishna. It went back to him. He was representing India. He was representing his mother country and religion and everything. And so that hurt him very deeply. Otherwise, personally, he was beyond all of these things. But we have another idea in this verse. Heed then no more how body lives or goes. Its task is done. Let karma float it down. We find a very interesting section in the Ashtavakra Samhita. We know that this was a small text that Sri Ramakrishna was very, very fond of, a very highly Advaitic text, but it has the story that this Ashtavakra says to King Janaka that if you've realized everything, you've realized yourself to be one with everything, you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not the senses, had the highest type of realization, why not let this body just dissolve? Why not remain merged in Brahman? This was also a question that was asked to Sri Ramakrishna, Dr. Sharkar. Why do you talk so much? It sounds very rude, but it was kind of this idea that if you've attained this highest perfection and highest contentment, then what is this desire to talk so much? So we get the same answer here. Janaka replied, if I'm one with everything, and the world is nothing but Brahman, then what is there to renounce? What is there to give up? That same story that we have with Rama and Vasishtha, that he says, yes, you can give up this world if this world is something different from God. So, perfectly blissful in whatever state. So then whatever karma takes us. This is again from Ashtavakra Samhita, this idea that God-realized soul lives in the world like the dry leaf in the storm. Shuska Parnavat. This, wherever it blows us, we go, we don't decide. If it blows us to a place where we have to do something to help other people, we do. Otherwise, we remain merged in God. So even Sri Krishna says, I have nothing to do in the three worlds, nothing to gain by doing anything, nothing to lose by not doing anything. Still, I remain engaged for the welfare of others. So I always find that these things are very personal in Swamiji's poetry, that we have to look at the situation of his life. When Swamiji had his Nirvikalpa Samadhi experience in Kashipur, and Sri Ramakrishna called him, and he told him everything that happened, and then Sri Ramakrishna asked him, now tell me, what is your ideal? What is your goal in life after all of this? And he said, yes, I would like to remain merged in Brahman, that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, only mind can come down just enough so that I can keep some sustenance in the body and then go back into that state. This is actually how Sri Ramakrishna lived for all of those months when he had his Nirvikalpa Samadhi experience. Swamiji probably, of course he was Narendra, probably thought Sri Ramakrishna will be very happy with that. But he got a big scolding. He said, what a small-minded person you are. I thought you were much greater than that. I thought you would be like a huge banyan tree that people scorched by the sun, where travelers will come and they'll sit under and take shelter and get shade. And that you'll be able to provide shade for so many people. So this was the dilemma for Swamiji, that he had that desire to, yes, live that life of perfect freedom. You go where the wind blows you, like the dried leaf in the storm. But he didn't have any choice, that he had to do Thakur's work. When he came back from the West, he did remove himself, we can say, especially after the second visit to the West. And when he turned everything over to Swami Brahmananda. But before that, then he was a slave to Sri Ramakrishna. And he would refer to himself that way. And how the Divine Mother directed him and made him do the work until he had accomplished it, and then he was free after that. So when we read this line, heed then no more how body lives or goes, its task is done. Let karma float it down. Now normally we'll think that the karma, this is the ideal of the Jivan Mukta and Prarabdha karma. After attaining God realization, the body will live and will act in the world according to whatever karma is left. But the Swamiji was not like that. Thakur was very clear that he was perfect, Nitya Siddha, whereas Prarabdha karma for someone like him. So Swamiji's karma was different. His karma was really this mission that he had to fulfill in his life. That was the burden of karma that Swamiji had, and until it began to bear fruit, then he had to fulfill that task. That was his karma, we can say, or swadharma, however we want to put it. But Swamiji wrote in several times in different letters, very beautifully he put, now I see that my machine is working nicely. It'll go on without me. And then he could withdraw. So that was the attitude that he had. So we look at this karma of Swamiji, that he had to leave his beloved homeland. He had to travel among strange people in this country. Some places it was freezing cold. Some places it was burning hot. Other places He was traveling day and night by train to cities that he didn't know anything about and giving lectures until he was exhausted and being cheated of the money by these agencies that he had to hire to arrange the lectures, and then reading the paper how he was a cheat and all these different groups against him, even people he knew in India, that this was his karma somehow. And at the same time having very bad health, diabetes, and pain in his body, asthma, all sorts of different things. So why Swamiji should have this type of karma? This is a play of Maya, play of Mahamaya, we can say. But it was through that that he accomplished so much. And would we be here without Swamiji? Hard to say. He started everything in the West. So Swamiji was longing for the day when he could actually live that way, when he could just cast everything aside. And we read this, especially in the beautiful letter he wrote to Josephine MacLeod. He says, "After all, Joe, I am only the boy who used to listen with rapt wonderment to the wonderful words of Ramakrishna under the banyan at Dakshineshwar. That is my true nature. Works and activities, doing good and so forth, are all superimpositions. Now I again hear his voice, that same voice thrilling my soul. Bonds are breaking, love dying, work becoming tasteless. The glamour is off life, only the voice of the Master calling. I come, Lord, I come. Let the dead bury the dead, follow thou me. I come, my beloved Lord, I come." So this was a great theme in the life of Swamiji towards the end. One of the other poems that I'm very, very fond of is that my play is done. And we get that same feeling in the last lines. "Take me, O Mother, to those shores where strifes forever cease, beyond all sorrow, beyond tears, beyond even heavenly bliss, whose glory neither sun nor moon, nor stars that twinkle bright, nor flash of lightning can express. They but reflect its light. Let nevermore delusive dreams veil off thy face from me. My play is done, O Mother. Break my chains and make me free." Yeah, we have different points in Swamiji's life where we really see this. The Kira Bhavani, when he went there and he heard the voice of Mother, he was complaining, "Mother, if I'd been here, I would have protected you. They wouldn't have been able to break down this temple and everything." And he heard the voice of Mother say, "Do you protect me or do I protect you?" And then he said after that, everything was changed. Well, my patriotism was gone. No more Hari Om, now only Mother, Mother, Mother. So he had different points in his life where he realized that slowly the box was being opened that had been locked. And slowly he was also remembering who he really was, and he would be free after that. Now we get to the next verse. "Truth never comes where lust and fame and greed of gain reside. No man who thinks of woman as his wife can ever perfect be, nor he who owns the least of things, nor he whom anger chains can ever pass through Maya's gates. So give these up, Sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat, Om." Now here again we can say, okay, this is only for the Sannyasin. That Swamiji is not saying that there shouldn't be a husband and wife and marriage and family and everything. This is that ideal of the Sannyasin that he's talking about here. And specifically mentioning being free from these particular passions: kama, lobha, mana, krodha, lust, greed, pride, and anger. And this ideal, the Sannyasin, should look upon all women as their own mother or as the Divine Mother. See that motherhood in all women. And so the thought of taking a wife will be absolutely impossible. And at the same time, the Sannyasin must not own anything. No possessions whatsoever, not just mental renunciation, but the few things that we have, Say, we live in a beautiful place here. Is it ours? It's not ours. We can be asked to leave the next day. We don't own it. Our name won't be on anything. We have, of course, more possessions than we should. But you look at a real wandering sadhu, maybe just the clothes on their back, maybe just rags. So there's a very strong sense of non-possession that is the ideal of the Sannyasin. And we can say no luxury, that no enjoyment of possessions. And the point of this is that a certain lightness comes when we don't own anything. A certain detachment comes. A certain feeling of, yes, we have everything. We don't need anything outside of ourselves. I love that one statement. I heard Swami Lokeshwanandi say it many, many times. Having nothing hath all. That if we don't own, we own any particular thing, that's what we own. We don't own anything. Whole world is our own. We don't make any distinction between anything. And yes, because everything we own ties us to this body idea. We don't own anything, we don't have anything. Even we know if we travel light, we don't have the burden of a big bag and so many things to carry. That a certain lightness comes to us. So this is an ideal, highest ideal for the sannyasin. No possession, no wife, no husband, children, of course, nothing like that. But this also has relevance for the householder. Oh, we have to remember that at the very end of this, he talks about anger. I won't go into that too much, but this is a poison. Anger is the one thing that removes all sense of sanity from us. So this, everybody, sannyasin householder, the anger has to be eliminated. But anyhow, what I would like to try to show is that these verses have application for the householder, that for one thing, the householder life is a prelude to this type of idea. So Sri Ramakrishna says that a husband and wife, that at a certain stage of life, can start looking upon each other as brother and sister. Generally, we think of this as the retirement stage of life, when the vanaprasthan stage of life. But Sri Ramakrishna, as he said, some, after the birth of one or two children, who really, this ideal type of spiritual couple, will do that. Otherwise, this is something to be achieved later in life. The householder stage of life is a life of responsibility also. So that's not the time to start giving up anything at that point. It's a time to do everything with detachment. That's all, with a type of detachment, and to feel that this idea of possessing something is the real problem. See, we think, I have a husband, I have a wife. What sense do we have them? They're independent, free people. Same thing with children. Yeah, but we have this feeling that somehow they're our own possession, and that we have some right to expect things from them and everything. They don't necessarily feel that. Children grow up without any understanding, when they're young, of the expectations that the parents have for them. And getting older, then we start to understand and everything. But if we have that feeling, the feeling of the maidservant, that Thakur talks about all of the time. My children, but they don't really belong to me that way as my own possession. And the same thing with husband and wife. That even living the life of a husband and wife, to have that feeling that they don't belong to me like a possession, that the husband shouldn't feel that this is the one who has to cook for me and clean for me and everything, and the wife that feel that this is the one who has to look after me and protect me and do all of the ideas that we have, all based on some idea of possessiveness. So even while leading the householder life, even having a husband and a wife, we can have that type of feeling, that freedom, letting go, respecting the individuality of the other person. And then we can go even further, that we don't look upon the wife as the wife or the husband as the husband, but we see that God dwelling within. We have our Matri Devo Bhava, Pitri Devo Bhava. We can also have Pati Devo Bhava, Patni Devo Bhava, that one should look upon one's husband and one's wife as God himself, God herself. And this was Thakur, this was a living, real vision of his, that he used to say, I see Rama dwelling within all men and Sita within all women. He saw the divine within all. So it doesn't mean that we kick out the husband and the wife. We change our attitude. That's all. I want to read from a lecture that Swamiji gave. This was covering everything with God. He says, we have to cover everything with the Lord himself, not by a false sort of optimism, not by blinding our eyes to the evil, but by really seeing God in everything. Thus, we have to give up the world, and when the world is given up, what remains? God. What is meant? You can have your wife, I'm going to add, and husband. It does not mean that you are to abandon him or her, but that you are to see God in the wife and the husband. Give up your children. What does that mean? To turn them out of doors, as some human brutes do in every country? Certainly not. That is diabolism. It is not religion. But see God in your children. So we can take this idea, for the sannyasin, of course, have no wife, with sannyasini, have no husband, but other way of looking at it is that let it be, see the divinity, see God dwelling within the husband, within the wife, within the children, and everything. So these are the 3 verses from today, and probably next time we'll finish. I think there are 3 more after this. So let's take a few minutes and just sit quietly.